First of all, thank you. Thank you all. My name is Riza. I'm from Turkey. I'm working for Global Ports Plc. It is a listed company in London Stock Exchange. We have recently, the company recently has go public on May 2017. And just to give you what does the company do, it is global. We are basically buying port concessions from governments and running until the end of the concessions. So we are in multiple jurisdictions, multiple currencies, so and multiple business models. So we have cruise ports and the commercial ports. And as you can see, we are in Lisbon, Valletta, and our core was Turkey. So we were originally born in Turkey. We started with Ege Port, one of the biggest cruise port in Turkey in terms of passenger. And we also have a very sizable commercial port, Antalya, and Bodrum is one of the significant ones as well. With that core, company started to acquire more ports in Europe after the 2011. And following years, company grow exponentially wide across. So now they have completed almost expansion in the Mediterranean. Now they're opening up with our first Caribbean acquisition, Havana. So as you can see, the company is operating in a wide range and in different jurisdictions. Where we used to be just a Turkish company, we already have one single data source where we were capturing everything in our accounting software. But since company grows so fast and we are not greenfielding these acquisitions, we are just buying the concessions, we are already buying an established company. So, which comes with the advantages and disadvantages. I'm gonna tie this up why we decided to work with Quantrix. So it's a map visualization where we are operating. So Havana and Singapore, we are not majority there. So this is what it looks like. And this is our board. So as you see, there's some Turkish people, our founder, Chairman Mehmet Kutman, and the rest is, we have Lord Mendelssohn on board, Thierry Dieu, some French people, German people. So it's a wide variety of board, so different speaking languages boards, and everybody resides in different countries. Same with the senior management. Senior management is part of Turkish, and we have 4 HQs, one in London, one in Istanbul, one in Barcelona, and one in Miami. So that brings me who I am. So I used to be a budgeting and reporting manager for the group, but recently I got promotion. Now I'm head of business control and the system development. And I don't know. Let's see. I didn't receive a good feedback yet, so I will wait. But a little bit of me. I was doing an external audit 4.5 years with Ernst & Young, and then I joined a small asset management company, which was listed. I had chance to see the whole financial process and everything, and I've been working for Global Ports for the last 2 years, and this is what I do. So while we decided to do a Quantrix project, so I was basically performance reporting of the group, and which is mainly annual budgeting process and monthly tracking and what happened, and if it comes up ad hoc analysis. On top of it, since we are a listed company, we have to do a going concern analysis, and for the credibility analysis, and the rating agencies keep giving us ratings, so we have to have updated versions of business planning for 5 years. And this is it. And then, so before we start to choose Quantrix, let me describe how was the scene before Quantrix. So since company grows so fast in a very limited time, so everything was dependent on Excels. So it is Excels coming over emails, and we were dumping in one directory, and we were making Excel to read that source file and we were preparing all this exchange currency Excels where it picks up the figures and converts it. But again, like it was already complex enough and hard enough, but we have, since we are a listed company in London, we are reporting in USD as a functional currency, and we owned by another company. It is our parent company. They are listed in Istanbul Stock Exchange, and they are reporting in Turkish lira. And he said we have two business lines. One is commercial, one is cruise, which is completely irrelevant to each other. They are completely different business lines. So you cannot simply take an ERP system and apply from one to other. So it was impossible to unify. And so we were solely dependent on the accountants in that ports that they are telling us the truth. So, and once again, the distance didn't make much help, like it wasn't a help. And again, of course, the Turkish ports were bookkeeping in lira, and European ports is bookkeeping in euro. Our parent company, the one in London, has to bookkeep in GBP. And then we have the functional currency of USD. So it is a complete soup of FX translation gain and losses. Also, we are approaching the project finances to the big financial institutions that we are telling them, look, this is our annual EBITDA, and these are our forecasted target ports for acquiring, and these are forecast. Again, these are all done in Excels, and then they're always error prone. And then you have to see if you're breaching your covenants or anything else. And on top of it, once you even consolidate it, you have to communicate this to senior management and the board of directors, which is every month you have to go through the Excels or PowerPoints, which they're traveling all the time. Or even if you send them an Excel, once a single source of an Excel file is in the directory, but he hasn't access rights, then they're having all these errors, and then guess who get the blame? So there were, before all this, before Quantrix, there was an attempt for really try to merge the operations with the financial results. It's called Portal. They used Microsoft solution, a SharePoint solution, but it was very poor design, so it really didn't work. And once again, FX fluctuations. So we need a complete system where it's, unbundling the data source and really eliminate the human error, and where we can see the transparency behind the calculation. So we were finally able to access how these calculations are done. I mean, in terms of industry, this is a very forecastable industry, by the way. Has anyone bought a cruise trip? Were you in a cruise trip? So you have to book in advance. So all the cruise itineraries is determined 2-3 years ago, and you know that deployment of the ship is in the sea for 50 weeks. So you pretty much can forecast the market size and everything else. So it was a very forecastable, but we were doing a very poor job on that. And then once again, we were preparing, once we were trying to prepare a 5-year plan, it just blew up, like literally blew up, because there was 10 different scenarios, good, bad, normal case, and financing options. And the margins were very fluctuating because of Turkish ports is cost dominated in lira, but earnings were in dollars. So margins were playing around. Then we shared with the analyst. Analyst came up with so many comments saying, this doesn't make sense. How did you come up with this? So since we were working on a very shallow level, that our models weren't making sense much. And then that's when I started to look for a better solution. So once you started to look for a solution, it is almost impossible. So what I write in Google, I said, like, online financial modeling. So where we can build a model and where we can share it with someone, the third party. And so I think Quantrix came in the second page, so it was the late 20s.
Not quite high enough, but you did find us, fortunately.
So, but literally, I dropped my details to almost any possible solution provider. Some German companies are doing Java-based, which is not very user-friendly. And then there's some British company. I even contacted Anaplan, and they were saying, we will fix your problem. But then you ask for a demo, and you receive the demo, and you know that that's not going to quite work, or implementation will take so long time that the cost will not be higher than benefits. So then one day Tyre called me. So it's the funny story. Let me tell how we met with Tyre. So sorry, he said, it's easy. I can fix it. No problem. I said, like, Tyre, I don't think what you're signing up. And he's like, no, don't worry. And I said, okay, can you at least give me a model that would be working on the parameters of sensitivity analysis of FX changes, inflation changes, and good, bad, and worst scenario cases? And he came back in one day, literally in one day, and gave us a presentation. I was like, you did it in one day, this? And he said, yes. And I said, okay, solved. So it's not up to me to decide this, but I was really trying to pressurize CFO to say, look, this is what we need. And so again, why we were deciding on this. These were the goals. So I really wanted to have a KPI driven. Really, it's either because our KPI indicators are very easy. So it's the number of packs we have, number of calls, how many tons that we handled in our commercial ports, how many containers we handled in our commercial ports, and then we do this in annual plan. So in annual plan, we only work in one base scenario, but then your concession is very dynamic, and sometimes government can let you, some other people to have the part of the port, or let them build a port as a competitor to you. Then you have to work on the worst case scenario, or you can say they're like in good cases it happened. They close a part of the port where the traffic came back to us. So we had to work on this. So we don't have a very high quality because the port business is not where you can attract the talent. It is hard to attract talent in port business. So we are depending on the accountants, where the accountants are not very aware of ticking and tying all this. So they don't. Sometimes we receive balance sheets that's not summing up to zero. So it is kind of a tough situation for us to handle. But then we were trying to make a 5-year plans for a listing on the credit institutions. And then it is operations side. So the CEO, of course, once we pitched this in, he said, why don't we harmonize this with operations? Let's just have the KPIs, because we had the ruins of the pre-existing system, Portal, the SharePoint system, where were they just tracking number of passengers, container volumes, and everything else. And I said, okay. So what we did, I will back up to that, automated reporting. So every month I have to go to torture of collecting the Excels, putting into the directories, updating the FX rate, and just saying update links, edit links. Then everything was then hoping that my consolidated Excel won't blow up to our face, and then we have the figures. But you don't know if that guy made an error in an individual Excel sheet, which is feeding your consolidated Excel. So which happens all the time, and then you have a very wrong analysis. And pre-built unified management reporting system. So that's also one of the other challenges. So after this, this process, going through this process, collecting Excel, consolidating, then you have to prepare a PowerPoint out of that you build on Excel, then copy paste it and just make the analytics next to it and email the related people. And then it's already 20th of the month, and they say this is already too late to take any action, which were right. And again, it's the 5-year strategic plans has a massive impact in our planning, but we are carrying a 250 million euro bond as a liability. So there are so many big covenants attached to that, and FX. So Turkish lira has lost its value maybe 40% since 2019, and that's really affecting how we budget for Antalya, for example, which is like, you know, consisting our 50% of our EBITDA. So sometimes it makes the whole difference. And I'm repeating myself, and scenario analysis, it was one of the things. So I touch upon how we met with Tahir. It was a true love story. So implementation process. So this is where Tahir started to cry all the time and saying this is an unending scope extension, because he was doing one thing, then the management sees that's doing something really good, then they were saying, can we add this on top of this? So, and it was an agile, in his terms. For me, it is a never extending, stopping extension of scopes. So what we did, so as I said, it's very forecastable. We know the number of ships going around the world. It's 400 ships. It's not that much, but everybody was using different passenger capacity for each ship, which is flowed in the design. So we created a centralized ship database with Tahir. Then they can simply select as like they're booking a plane ticket. So they were just going to the planning phase. They were going, which ship is coming to my port, when, how long they stay, how many turnaround passenger, how many transit passenger we are having, and then boom. Then we build the tariffs in it, because the tariffs are published. We just take the tariffs, start to multiply. It's on primary port side of it. That's an occupancy rate was also really important, because seasonally the occupancy of the ships has changing, and they were using it to manipulate their budgets. So they were saying, you know, I took 80% of the ship capacity occupancy rate, but it is a high season. Why are you using 80%? You should be using 120. You know, sometimes ships get canceled, and that's not the answer of the question. You're simply putting a buffer in your budgets. Since we are not able to see their calculations, so you have no authority, there was no transparency behind the budget. So we said, look, this is simply manipulating your budgets. And then FX rates. So in terms of bonuses are paid in the functional currency. So the board decides if there are going to be a bonuses paid in or not in the functional currency. And then you start to fight with the port saying, well, I reached my target. We said, no, you don't, because sometimes euro dollar is also fluctuating. It was 1.20 and it dropped to 1.8. And we were trying to explain, well, you might reach on euro terms, but as a group, we didn't reach our targets, so there's no bonus. So it was hard to explain, since you have a rigid one Excel that you cannot share with anybody. So we're hoping, and it started to solve our problems in that sense. Okay, the third biggest challenge during our implementation. So we also bought Oracle product, Hyperion, for IFRS purposes. This was prerequisite for us to be able to go to listed in London, because you have to have a certified audited, and where the codes were proven by the independent authorities. So we have to have Hyperion. And by the way, Tahir was competing with Oracle's budgeting module, by the way. So the cost of that was not even comparable. So, and then we were saying, they were saying, can we also implement IFRS results? Because now we had the management account results, where it is really statutory accounts, and we had IFRS results, which is adjusted, and IFRS is always higher. And then we were having all of these fights, because now I'm publishing the management results, and then IFRS results came up, and they're saying, well, it's really not matching. What we did, we built a connection between Hyperion and Quantrix, where we can actually show people what they did in their books and what they did in IFRS terms, because it is impossible to explain to Port GM, because he doesn't understand the booking, the liability, employee termination liability. So he never did it. So he only looks at the bottom line in his statutory books, and then you have in IFRS some completely different. Then he says like, well, this is not fair. And then we had to have a reconciliation of that, and we did it. Building dashboards for senior management and board of directors. That's also was one of my main goals, to be able to feed the management and the board instantly all the time, where they can just one click web browser, no matter which device they are on. So that was very successfully done. Deployment of this is where we are getting a lot of pushback with Tahir. So we were individually on implementation phase with great patience. We had to go through and explain what we did and how did we the calculations, and we explained them, look, this is your model, test it, give us a feedback so we can adjust it as your needs. So he did a great job. So he's receiving maybe 20 emails a day from the individual ports saying, can you fix this part? I don't think it's working quite right, which is, we are still going through that process anyway at the moment. Automated calculations of the budget, which is, I was explaining, receiving all these emails, putting all Excels in one directory, so to master Excel to read and consolidate. Snapshot of the ports performance available to port GM. This is also, I think there was a blind fly in GMs, so they didn't know what's really happening in their ports most of the time, because they talk to the accountant and the head of operations in their port, and they are also manipulating sometimes GM, saying things are better than it is or worse than it is. So let me show you the end results. So this is a beautiful design for senior managers and the board of directors, so they can actually see what's happened in that port in a certain period. If it is a year-to-date, or if it is if they want to see a year-to-date results, or they just want to see a individual month results. So operations cockpits. So these are our key KPIs that we present in terms of by port and as a consolidated level. And there is some data still missing because we're still trying to test it. And they are like, we have all of these dashboard visualizations available instantly all the time to the senior management. Same with the financial results. So we were hoping to show which port, how much they're contributing, for example, in terms of revenue, in the cruise segment and everything else. Same here, there's a Yeah, we created accounts for them and just share with them, and they, even if they want to do an ad hoc analysis, they can do just a drag and drop. So it's that's going to be taking a lot of weight from us. So this is still, we are giving them a detailed analysis. We prepared the views for the senior management. This is still ongoing, by the way. We did all of this in 3 months. So, and if you try this on any other platform, this will take ages. But we did it just in 3 months, and we are still improving. So this is the thing that I was telling about the GM. So a GM simply can go, we gave them, of course, the orientation, but again, we are saying them, look, this is your forecasted revenue, this is your number of calls that you're expecting, and all other key KPIs, how much passenger you're expecting. Sometimes they don't even know they are having a record year as well. So I think most important input of Quantrix, it really democratized the information amongst organizations. So we are not anymore, the finance is not the only one who is looking at the figures and making decisions. So everybody can have a really deep understanding what's happening all in ports. I think this was the most important thing that Quantrix did, and hopefully we will improve it and gonna give great results. On top of it, what we are trying to build on, again, 5-year plans with multiple scenarios, a proper integration of IFRS, and we are going to write rules to make a IFRS consolidation. That would be an interesting application of Quantrix. I think we can even, I think if we are managed to do it, we might be creating an alternative for Oracle in terms of IFRS consolidation. And there are some really key matrices. So HR planning, what Stephen was showing, this is very important. It's our 60% of our total cost is HR, basically. And so we are trying to, and we are outsourcing some of, due to seasonality, we are hiring seasonally, and sometimes hiring decisions are not great. So we are trying to help them accountable for their decisions by opening this up to the HR and directly to GMs and financing part of it. So once we're normally using SVPs for our financing. So each individual port finance itself, we are using as a collateral. And this is the loan amortization modules is very important, and it's very forecastable. So that's why we were trying to implement that. Fixed asset modules as well. We are trying to have a more accurate calculations on there for their amortizations and everything else. I think I was giving this feedback yesterday as well. I think Quantrix is, as a core, it's in 2050s, but in terms of data visualization, it is somewhere around 1998, I think after. But hopefully data visualization will improve more and more. What would be a game changer in our side? We are directly accessing the accounting information from the accounting system. I think this will be a game changer as well. If we can directly feed the results to the Quantrix without any human touch, that would be a game changer as well. And one last thing, integrating the invoicing module from Quantrix to accounting system. So this is also has been set a goal to us. So if we can directly set, see what Quantrix calculated could be invoiced back to the ships. So these are our future expectations. Thank you.